Hey surf skating friends, Steve here with Surf Skate Love, here to review the Ovni surf skate trucks from Brazil. Now I think a lot of people have been very curious about these trucks, myself included, because when you go to their website you can see that it's a very interesting, unique design. They have actually 3 trucks and all of them look very unique and interesting, and it really makes you curious. And they also have some what I would call pretty bold, bombastic claims on their website, most notably that they call their trucks light years ahead of anything else on the market. So is that true? Well, to answer that question, instead of just drawing my conclusions and then coming to you with my conclusions, what I actually want to do is just walk you through the process that I had with these trucks, and then throughout the process I'll try to explain to you what I'm experiencing, and then that way, instead of me just imposing my conclusions onto you, you can kind of just draw your own conclusions. But I do have to make one very big disclaimer, and that is when you read the instructions that they give, they say our surf trucks don't have curve limiters. Take care about what you do when surfing with them. If you miss the ankle angle, you will fall to the ground as you fall into the water when you miss the angle of inclination of your surfboard. First of all, when I read that, I'm kind of like, well, I sure hope I'm not going to be biting pavement over and over with these trucks, because it's a little bit different missing that angle in water and missing that angle on concrete. They go on. For this reason, the purpose of Ovni surf trucks is not only to have fun, but to improve the surfing of those who use them. They are used by many surfers as functional training to warm up before surfing, to improve fitness, and to train surfing maneuvers on flat days or when it rains. So here's what this means. Their stated claim is that they are very specifically a surf training truck, and what they are trying to do with their truck is replicate the feel of surfing. Now, as anybody who's ever seen any of my videos knows, I'm not a surfer, and I don't have the slightest clue how surf skating on land translates into how this feels into water. I am not a qualified source to make any kind of opinion on what truck I feel is the most surf-like or what replicates surfing the most. If I ever make any recommendation about that, it's not based on my personal experience, but more based on survey data. So with that disclaimer out of the way, let me just walk you through my process that I had with these trucks. We've got 3 trucks. They call this smallest one the Orion, this medium-sized one the Sirius, and then they have the Andromeda that they call them. One of the very first things I notice immediately is how narrow these axles are. Here is a Carver C7, and you can see here is the widest axle they have on the Sirius, and you can see how much narrower that is compared to the Carver C7. And then look at this one here, look at the difference, and then same thing with the Andromeda over here. On the Orion and the Sirius, you basically have one spring here and you have one axis of rotation right here. Let me just go ahead and open this up for you. So just like any other surf skate truck that we've seen, we'll have a set of bearings and washers on one side, and then if we open this up, I'm actually not going to, because you can kind of see there's this bolt that comes through here. If I pull this apart, you're going to see that bolt there with another set of washers up top. And then you've got this exposed spring here. So the design is intriguing to me, and I'm very curious to know how it rides. Here is the Sirius, exact same design, only bigger with a wider axle. And now we get to the Andromeda. We have 2 axes of rotation on this one. We have the same one that you have on these 2 this way with the spring that you see here. On top of that, we've got another rotating axis right here, which makes for a very easy to twist motion. This is incredibly loose, and I'm telling you right now, just holding this and doing this, to be honest, I'm scared for my life to see how this one performs. They also include in the box a number of different things. I bought a rear truck just because I wanted to make sure I'm matching whatever they're doing with what they're using for rear trucks. I think this is not machined well, and I'll talk more about this later, the alignment of these holes and things. It's very light. These bushings are very cheap. They do include another set of bushings which are pretty much hard as rock. If I were to use these trucks, I would switch out these bushings entirely. This is a Carver C7 rear truck, and you can see that we're a lot narrower on that rear truck as well. So that's going to make a very big difference to the ride. I can just see that. Okay, then we have a couple of risers. They show you pictures where they say that this Orion does not need risers because of the angle. The Sirius requires one small riser underneath the rear trucks, and then the Andromeda requires the bigger riser. They also include an extra spring. I'm going to just bottom line my experience for you with this. I really quickly found that these springs are way too loose, and so I tried to replace this spring, and you can see how this bolt will come out with an Allen wrench, and right here there's another one that'll come out right here that you can unscrew and you can take this off. But here's the thing, I tried and tried and tried. I could not get this tighter spring in. I don't know how they're doing it, which means that this extra spring is essentially worthless. So you're stuck with what you got. Now, as far as hardware, here's what they gave me. I believe these are carriage bolts. Now, I am no expert by any means, but never in my life have I ever seen any longboard, skateboard, surf skate have carriage bolts. It's got these square things on them where those are actually fairly small, but depending on your board, I don't want to be chewing up my board with those. And then it's got a rounded top. I don't want my feet on these rounded tops. And then also, if you can see, these actually don't even fit into the holes. It can still turn. And so what that means is I have no way of tightening these bolts anyway. And also you'll see that these don't have nuts. So now at this point I'm scratching my head going, I don't know what you're thinking, but I just have never seen the likes. And if you're going to give me bolts, at least give me nuts to go with them. So what this means essentially is that I don't have any hardware to work with. I have the trucks, and now I'm left to figure out how to piece together hardware to even get them together. So on that front, I'm going to spare you one step of my process. I spent an hour and a half putting together my first truck because it took me a while to find the right combination of risers and hardware. I pulled what I could off of the Carver Green Room. This is one of my very favorite decks, fits me like a glove. I use this as my test deck on all of these. Now, as far as materials go and quality that I mentioned earlier, here's another thing that I discovered. In my opinion, these are not manufactured well because for a number of different reasons you can kind of just visually see, but also these holes are not aligned. It took me a long time to finally be able to get it to fit into a deck properly. In fact, I stripped out a bolt doing it because you can't just push the bolts in. They won't go in. You have to drill it in. And doing that on this first time, it kind of bore out the hole. You can see a little bit more so I could work with it. So that tells me they probably have some manufacturing issues to work out. Okay, so now you see what I'm working with. Now let me just put this first one together, the smaller Orion, on this Carver Green Room, and we'll go ahead and give this a test ride. Another thing to note on the manufacturing front is that a lot of these threads are very, very difficult to screw onto, and so it's kind of a struggle to get these on. You have to just kind of force it, and like I said, a few of them are like this. But there we go. We have the Ovni Orion trucks installed. Now you can see, like, wow, what an interesting, look how narrow that is. Look what a wide range of motion this is. I'm gonna just step onto this board. I just wanna kind of get some kind of a feel of what I'm going into when I take this up to my parking garage and try it out. So we're stepping on, I'm nervous, and yep, that is, whoa, very divey. Very tippy. I'm nervous. Let me show you what this means. So I don't ever wear protective gear when I'm just going out on a test ride of a first truck, but just from what I just experienced, I'm padding up to even try these trucks. Ooh. Oh. So I don't know if you can see this visually, but you can see how I have this much range of motion before I'm gonna tip. Right about there. I can go about that far. Watch what happens when I try to lean on these. It basically will hit a certain point and then kind of pop right there. And then you're toast. So when they say if you miss the ankle angle, you're gonna bite it, they are 100% correct. And you can see how this is gonna translate into the ride. once I start kind of settling into a flow with it, another thing I notice is once you realize the range of motion you're working with on your front lean, and you realize you have to rein it in or you're gonna bite it, it feels to me most like the Smooth Star and the Curve Board, side to side action, this front foot going side to side, versus on other surf skate trucks, what I experience is when I'm pumping, it's more like I just will push on the back end and I get propulsion more from a compression and extension pump. Now that may be a preference for you. I don't know. I'm not trying to say I don't like it. I'm trying to say it's different than anything I've experienced. And it's very precarious. You do not want to bite out on these, and it's very easy to do so. Does it ride? Yes. Does it pump? Yes. Does it carve? Yes. Is it very precarious and scary? Yes. Do you get a lot of lean out of it? No, you don't. I find these trucks to be paradoxical. And what I mean by that is when you look at their range of motion, they have next to the Swelltech arguably the widest range of motion of any surf skate truck. But because of how they tip out so easily, it means that you effectively can't even use that range of motion. So the effect of their increased range of motion is that it actually limits your range of motion because you do not want to bite out on these things. And as you can see visually, the slightest little tip, you hit a point where it's not anything smooth, it's gonna snap out on you and you're eating concrete. So what you just watched is the Orion truck. So the Sirius is the same design except with wider axles, same axis of rotation. So there we have our Sirius. You can see that it is much wider than the Orion. Visually, just look at this. Like if you were to put this on your board at home and then just do this little test, what would you be thinking? To me, I'm afraid of biting the concrete. You see that right there? This is what happens to you on this truck. Just like that. As soon as I hit there, boom. Okay, let's give this Sirius a shot. Okay, it's the, whoa, right there. Can you see that tip? That's as far as I got, right there. It doesn't feel a whole lot different than the Orion. Same kind of a flow. Same kind of a side-to-side action. And the exact same issue. Just watch what happens on these trucks. You hit a certain point, it's a point of no return where it's gonna go boom, and you're toast. And they are kind of, I wouldn't say bragging, but they're advertising that they have no curve limiter. They have no stopper like the Waterborne or other ones have, which means, yep, when they say that if you miss the ankle angle on these, that you're gonna bite pavement, they are 100% correct. So you have to ride them pretty gingerly. But as you've seen, I can find a groove with them. I can find a flow. It will pump, it will carve. I can skate on it. I will say that I feel a lot more comfortable and confident on this Sirius than I do on that Orion with the much narrower axle. But when you visually look at these, it would seem like you would get a lot of lean. But as I'm hoping you're seeing, you cannot get very much lean on this at all. Oh, there was just a lean that just about right there. As soon as I lean that far, I'm toast. Right there. So now we get to the Andromeda. This is the dual axis of rotation one that really makes me scared for my life. You can see like, whoa, this thing is narrow. You tell me what's gonna happen if I ride this truck. According to OVNI, what they say is this one is for surfing in bowls, slopes in medium to high speeds, and for medium-sized riders at a professional skill level. I am not a good bowl rider. I've just started to ride a bowl, and I'll show you some video of me. You can see what level of I'm at. But from what you see right here, I can promise you that I wouldn't dream of taking this in a bowl. That's not to say that it can't be ridden in a bowl, but I would like to see the professional rider who can, and even if they can, I'd like to see the professional rider who would prefer this over anything else. All right, so here we go with our Andromeda test ride. I'm nervous, not gonna lie. Woo. Ooh. Ooh. Yeesh. Oh, this is so precarious. It's beyond precarious. As soon as you hit that tip, you're toast. Let me see if I can get this going in a pump. So hard to pump. It's very precarious. Whew, not really. I mean, yeah, sure, you can get it pumping, but certainly not very easily. Oh. Okay, I'm done riding this thing. You can just visually tell either this is completely non-functional or it's way out of my league, but regardless, I have no interest in riding this further. I'm gonna eat pavement, and it's not even a fun feel. Okay, so here is my bottom line take on the OVNI trucks. They do give you the functionality of a surf skate truck, but for me and my style of riding, they are not comfortable at all, and they're very precarious, and you can't really push them aggressively or you're going to tip. So whether or not these are light years ahead, I don't think so. In my opinion, all of these designs are probably several iterations away from even being a fully functional surf skate truck for me. Now, if you are a surfer or a better rider than me, you are more than welcome to look at my experience with these and see if it's something that you want to try out, and you might have a completely different experience and opinion. But these trucks bring up a debate for me, and that debate is, in the current surf skate market, where we're starting to get more non-surfers than surfers into surf skating, the question is, when you're creating a surf skate truck, how much do we want to replicate the feel of surfing? So as I've said, I don't know what surfing feels like, and I don't know if these are more accurate to surfing than any other truck out there like they claim. But here's what I can tell you. If these are the feel of surfing, then that's not what I'm looking for in a surf skate truck. I want something more stable, more comfortable, that's more versatile than that for me, that gives me a wider range of things that I can do with it. I'm not trying to become a better surfer. I'm just trying to enjoy my ride in the streets. To me, the biggest thing that I want to make note of on the OVNI trucks is that all three of them are, in my opinion, a paradox. The paradox being they are designed for a very wide range of motion, but because of the tippiness of it, you can't actually even access that range of motion. So not only does it make that range of motion completely irrelevant, but it also makes it not fun at all, because the whole time you're just scared for your life waiting for this thing to tip. Now, none of this is me saying don't buy OVNI trucks. I'm really just trying to give you an accurate portrayal of my experience, and then you can look at my experience and make that decision for yourself. I will say these are only for advanced riders. I don't think beginners or intermediate riders are going to want to come anywhere near these. If you are a surfer or an advanced rider, I'm not going to tell you not to buy these. I'm going to issue it as a challenge. I hope a really good surfer buys these trucks and can give us a better idea of whether or not these really are more accurate to surfing and whether or not they like it. But that's my experience. These are not street cruises for me. Personally, I won't ever use these trucks again.